Got
So
it.
I'm here with Michele and Matt. And just before we started recording, I was complaining to Michele that I had to spend 2 hours just reading her agenda. So this recording should be about 9 or 10 hours long. So sit down, relax, get a beer. And we were talking just before I started recording about something I discovered when I visited Mexico recently. And that was, we stayed in Merida, which is the inland capital of the Yucatan. The Yucatan is the home of the Maya people. It's very safe and secure. And I showed a few pictures, which I'm just going to show again for the recording, of what what homes in Merida look like. So this is the home that we stayed in. This is the lap pool. Which is quite beautiful. This is one of the rooms inside the Airbnb where we stay, which is kind of an indoor-outdoor room. This is, I guess, the breakfast nook. That's just another picture of it. There's the second bedroom. It's a two-bedroom Airbnb. That's the family room. There's the indoor-outdoor room again. Then here's the master bedroom, and there's the kitchen. So the real estate in Merida is incredible. So I was saying to Matt and Michele, for $200,000 or $300,000 US, you could buy these houses that in Ottawa or Toronto or Vancouver or San Francisco or Portland or Austin would be in the $1 to $2, maybe even $3 million range. So I think it's fantastic. And the other thing I mentioned before we started recording was Merida, as the home of the Maya people, is very safe. So you can wander around day or night, man or woman, and you're going to be quite safe. All right, so I showed those pictures. And then what I did was I wanted to describe for Michele and Matt, I'll share the other screen now. So this is just because I'm an engineer, not an architect, this is the best I can do. I wanted to show them what the house that we stayed in kind of looks like. So this is the main drag. It's 565 Calle 45, which is close, about 10 minutes from downtown Merida. Merida is about 1 million people. And as I said, it's inland. It's about 13 miles inland from the beach. So if you're a beach guy, this is probably not where you want to go. But if you love the history and the culture and the food of Mexico, this is a fantastic town. About 1 million people live in this town. So anyway, here's the lot. If you can see my cursor moving around, there's a lap pool, which you saw in the pictures, and then I outlined the house, which kind of L-shaped. But what I was just about to get into, Matt and Michele, was over here, where I've used red, is what's called a lock-off suite. You guys know what a lock-off suite is, right?
Is it tantamount to a micro suite? Or
it's tantamount to a micro suite, a studio apartment, a bachelor. Okay. In Mexico, they call them an efficiency. That makes sense. So it's a little one room, 240 square foot micro suite, which is self-contained and has its own entrance. And then here's the entrance to the main house where we were, like this. And then that room that I showed you, that was the indoor-outdoor room, was here. So there used to be a garage here where you could park a car. And then there was that indoor-outdoor room as well. So if you owned it, Matt and Michele, or I owned it, what we would do is we would still have a two-bedroom. We would still have a two-bedroom Airbnb. So this guy here would be a two-bedroom Airbnb, right? But we would also have two, not one, but two lock-offs, one here and one here. So when you're living in, so when you and Michele are visiting that, you'll stay in the two-bedroom home. It's your home. You'd stay there. You'd enjoy it. When you're not there, you'd rent it out on Airbnb. But even when you're there, you're still producing revenues. Do you sort of follow what I'm saying? Because there's tremendous demand for these little studios. Now, our landlady is a wonderful, wonderful person, but she is not a I think she was a teacher, so she's not exactly a business person, really. I mean, that's not her strength, right? So what she does is she rents out the two-bedroom here to people like us, and she moves out of her own house and lives in the lock-off suite because she's there permanently. She's in Merida, 12 months a year. And so she'll live here. When she needs some money, she'll rent it out. And when people like us leave, she'll move back into her own house. But that wouldn't necessarily work for my wife and I, probably not for you guys either. So this is the way I would do it. And for a lock-off suite here and here, you know, you'd probably make about 115 Canadian dollars a night for each one, you know, like that. And for the 2-bedroom, you'd probably make between 175, you know, and in peak season, you'd probably make $250 a night, right? So what you would end up with, if you divided up the house like this, you'd end up with, I'm just guessing, $400 Canadian dollars a night, and you would be super busy for about 200 to 250 nights a year. Even in the summertime, people come to Merida to enjoy whatever there is to enjoy. But of course, from October or November right through until May, I mean, you're just booked solid, right? So that's what I mean about making every aspect of your real estate portfolio work for you, even your principal residence. Does it make any sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's a Firestone original. Michele, I'll send you the drawing I just made.
Please sign it. Please sign it too.
Okay, I'll put my initials on it right now. Trying anyway. I got to save it first. Give me a second.
So Bruce, that's actually, it's interesting. I like what we saw there. And 200, I think we said $400 on average a night with those 3 different streams, right? So the 2 lock-off suites and the 2-bedroom and 250 days. So that's $100,000 of, I guess, gross income for the year is sort of.
Yeah, let me just say this, because, you know, Michele, you back me up here, but I think most men can only do one thing at a time.
I'll back you up on that.
Not funny.
I don't know. Are you guys freezing?
A little bit.
Like it's choppy to me. Okay, I wasn't sure if it was just on my end. Okay.
It might be our end.
Oh, you can't hear me?
No, we can hear you fine. It's just sometimes the screen pixelates slightly, but the sound quality is
it's just
perfect.
a little choppy, but I don't know if it's okay. Perfect. It's just me then.
Okay, I'm sending you the picture now, so you'll have it. Oop, it's not. Okay, there it is. Let me just fix it up a little bit. But one thing you would do, I feel quite confident in recommending to you both. Oh, hang on. Is that you would probably want to look at Merida. That is the place. So let's say you bought something, I'm just putting a number out there for say $300,000 US, and you rented it out for $400 a night for 250 nights. You know, that's a pretty good number. 250 times 400, you know, it's about 100 grand a year. You know, I mean, 350,000 American dollars is probably what, 425 Canadian. So you're looking at a cap rate that could be in the teens, Matt, and that's very good. Now, yeah, it would be less than that if you and Michele decide to take 3 months every year, you know, and go down there. But I mean, whether you're at a 13, 14, 15% cap rate or you're at 9, 10, or 11, really, it doesn't matter. That's quality of life at that point.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I think we said the baseline that we're looking at, if I've learned anything leading up to today, is 6%. Right. So anything above that is quality investment.
And you know, getting 6% is actually pretty good in places like Ottawa, Toronto, Vancouver, San Francisco, Austin, Portland, Seattle, Boston. You know, all these great cities. Prices, not just for homes, but for land and for commercial buildings, are so high. Many people, like I think I told you, Matt, maybe Michele heard me say it in one of the courses I taught, that when I started coaching 2 young guys in Long Beach, California, they were buying properties at 1.7 and 1.9% cap rates. And I said, you guys have got to stop that. That's you know, you lose money every month, and that's not fun. And I said, the minimum is 6%. And they told me that's impossible in California. I said, no, we'll figure it out. So you can't figure it out. And we did. Do you remember how we did that, Matt?
Yeah, I seem to recall there being, because it was close to a port, there was some backyard space that you turned into what do you call it? Like an artisan
Workshops.
space where they make
Yeah,
workshops. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they bought two homes side by side, and they had a back alley, and they got permission from the town of Long Beach to add these really big and super nice workshops. And so on the two homes on site, they don't have a basement, so a basement apartment's out of the question. But they were able to add two lock-off suites, right, or two micro suites in each of the homes. So they duplexed it, but this way, not this way, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And then they added the workshops, which were very successful. So they're at about 5.9% on one of them, and I think just over 6 on the other. So that's a big difference from 1.7 or 1.9.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if we could start on Michelle's agenda, actually on the Navan property, because that's probably it's important to start there. Is that okay with you guys?
Yeah, that's totally fine. But we will put a placeholder in the Mexico conversation too, because I'm a fan of the non-Canadian winter. So while we're not your age yet, Bruce, I'm feeling where you are, and that's something that
I tell you, Matt, being locked in for the last 2 years has really affected me. I'm a pretty robust, mentally tough guy. I mean, I am. I spent years in the militia and the Cadet Corps. I've done lots of traveling, I've coped with a lot of difficult things, but being locked into my office here for 2.5 years really affected me. I didn't realize how much it affected me until this year.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So that's something that's of interest.
What you should do though is we should talk, because my wife and I are going back in January. We're going to spend January and February in Merida, and we're going to buy a property like similar to the one that we stayed in. It'll have two lock-off suites or two micro suites and a main house, and I'll probably also try and buy a rural property with a cenote and develop something really cool, right? Some glamping tents and some bunkies, and I'll find one. Trust me on that. I'm a civil engineer and I know a little bit about geology, right? So if you're interested, just put it ask Michele to add it to our endless agenda.
Already done.
All right, we'll come back to it. Okay, so
Thanks.
Let's look at Navan for a moment, because I spent quite a bit of time looking at that today before we got on the call. So
I can share my screen if you want. I have stuff.
No, it's okay. I booted it up.
Okay.
So this is your Navan property, I think.
Yes.
And I looked up and down the street. It doesn't have pipe water and pipe sewer, does it?
It has pipe water, yeah.
It has pipe water, but not. It must be on a septic system.
It's on septic.
Okay. So and I think if I wrote it down correctly, actually I did. I pulled up your geo warehouse. Yes, I did. I'll share the other screen with you. Sorry if I go back and forth. I hope you don't get seasick. I pulled up your geo warehouse. Do you know what the geo warehouse is?
I've only heard you speak of it on your courses.
So this is the property, 3827 Navan Road. This is, because I'm a realtor as well as a coach, I have access to geo warehouse. So I have access to the title information. Okay. Yep. And I'll send you this. And these are the kinds of things that you should keep on file for every property you own, right? And it's very important, Matt, to keep very good electronic files. And if you'll look at this, you'll notice, I don't know if you can see it at the top, but I named this file 3827 Navan Road Geo 2022 May 12th.pdf, right? So I give all of my files really good names so that I can find them. What a lot of people do is you download a form and it just comes with a bunch of random numbers. And then you say, oh, I'm sure Bruce sent me that geo warehouse for our property in Navan, but you can't find it on your computer because it's just some random number. Okay. Yeah. So don't be lazy. What I do for all the properties I own is I digitize everything. I get a letter from a lawyer saying something about the property. I make sure I got a digital copy of it with a good name. So I can search I've got millions of files. I can search for them. Okay. Yeah. So this one shows your address. You know what a PIN number is, right?
I don't.
Is it property identification number? Is that it?
Exactly. So every property in Ontario, Michele, has most of them. They're not all yet with PIN numbers, but most properties have property identification numbers. They are unique and they are important to know. You'll notice that it's freehold, and then it shows the plot plan, which you can see here. Ownership is Chafra Otterwood Inc., which I know is you.
Yep.
Then it gives you the legal description, which you can see here. Then it shows the area. So it's about just under 3/4 of an acre. It shows the perimeter and gives you the measurements, which you can see on the screen here and also over here. It shows you your assessment number, and your assessed value for the 2022 tax year is $250,000. Shows frontage and depth. Gives you a property code, which is 301, which is single family detached, not on the water. And then you can see the sales history, right? So it was purchased by you guys almost 10 years ago for $247,000. It was under some kind of power of sale. And in 2005, it went for $196,000. And in May of 1999, it went to these people for $109,000. So it's a pretty useful document to have. And I'm gonna send that to you now so you have it. So it's called Geo Warehouse. All right. And I'm going to attach it here if I can find it in my list here. Oops, sorry. So there's a little trick here with this thing here. So I can close this. And then if I can find it again, I can open it again. And then this Outlook will remember, I hope. There it is. All right, so you'll have that. It's 6 megabytes, but put it somewhere. And I don't have to tell you guys this, back up your files, right?
Yeah, we have Dropbox as well, so that's good.
Yeah, I have Dropbox, but I also have 2 hard drives, with terabytes of data and on separate places. So if everything goes to hell in a handbasket, one of them will probably come good. Because the data that you collect is really, really important. Okay, enough of that. All right, so let's go back to the other screen and just talk about it again. So you've got about 27,000 square feet of property. And you were talking about, I think, Michele, in your agenda of maybe knocking this thing down and putting up a triplex. Tell me more about that idea.
So did you see the apartment? It was entitled Apart in the agenda that I sent you in the attached document.
Did. Yeah.
So yeah, if I were, well, I don't know if I can share my screen, but when we were driving around just looking at what was available, we came across this little unit and we thought, oh, it might be cute up in Navan. But one, we have had investment properties before, but we've not really done anything with them. This came, Navan, did we put the basement in Navan, Woody, or did it come like that?
No, we put the basement in.
Okay.
But it came with the basement, but we finished it and rented it.
Yeah, exactly. And then we had a few other properties, but we've never gone in and torn something down and started from scratch. So that's kind of, we're trying to figure out, is that feasible for us? Is that something we can do with 2 full-time jobs? Is like, basically that's it. So the apartment that,
So I think it was this one, Michele.
That's
Screen?
Yeah.
All right. So I'll leave that for the moment. Again, I'm sorry about going back and forth between the different screens, but let's just look at something that's useful for you. You asked me, Michele, in the agenda, how do you find information about zoning? And I think you guys have already figured out, do not rely on realtors to provide that for you.
No, 100%. Yeah.
Unfortunately, they will tell you, hey, this is commercial zoning. It's great for industrial. You can build an abattoir here, or you can build a beautiful house here. I mean, they'll just put anything. Sometimes they shouldn't do that. But yeah. I have found any information I get on a listing, I have to confirm for myself. Are you guys familiar with this site?
No, okay. I've not seen that before.
All right, so bear with me for a moment. I'm going to put it in the chat box. You know what the chat box is, right, Matt?
Yep, right here.
So can you grab that? This is a site that you're going to become very familiar with, all right? So, and you're seeing it on the screen now. You should be able to see the site now. So what I did was I put in this is called Geo Ottawa. Don't get it confused with Geo Warehouse. Geo Warehouse is land titles. Geo Ottawa is geographical and zoning information for the city of Ottawa. And it is 99.999% reliable. Having said that, you still have to check with the city if you're buying a property or you're going to build something, because sometimes they make changes and it doesn't show up on Geo Ottawa for a year. So it's very, very accurate, but it's not perfect. Okay, guys?
Yep.
All right. So this is your property here, right here. Okay. And we're just gonna, and if I just, I want to get the zoning of it. Here's the zoning. It's V1E. Can you see that here?
Yes.
So if you, I'll just pan out again here. So this property, your property here, and the property next door is zone V1E. The property next door, which is the church, I think, is zone R12. It looks like.
Yeah.
So now we know the zoning is V1E, but what the hell does that mean? So what you do is you go to Google and you go you go V1E Ottawa. That's all you have to do. V1E zoning Ottawa. All right. And Google does all the work for you. If you go down to the city and you get the bylaws, be prepared to back your truck up. Get 10,000 pages. So Google does it for you, okay? So let's go and look and see what V1E means. Do you know what, do you actually know the zoning?
No.
Okay, so do not buy any more property without doing all your homework. You need the land titles, you need the Geo Warehouse and a bunch more information, and you need to collect it. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so can you see here V1 Village Residential First Density Zone? Let's look at that.
Yep.
All right. So it wasn't too hard to do, right?
Nope.
And I'm gonna put this in the chat. Oops, sorry. Shoot. Okay, I'm gonna put this in the chat box as well, so you can find it. Matt, can you copy it out of the chat box?
Got it. Yep.
And so what I want you to do on every property, when you have time later on, I want you to go back here, copy this onto a Word document, put it in under the address. So now you'll have the land titles information, you'll have the Geo Ottawa information, which I'll show you again in a minute, and you'll have the zoning and a bunch of other stuff. If you have a survey, if you have building plans, everything has to be digitized, everything has to be filed. Otherwise, your life will be a sheer misery in terms of being a competent real estate investor and developer. All right. I mean, think about this, Matt and Michele. I have now coached over 2,500 people, plus I run my own real estate portfolio. There's no way I could do that if I wasn't, if I didn't have really, really good files. All right. So the purpose of the zone is to permit detached dwellings in areas designated as village in the official plan, allow a limited range of compatible uses. So what is allowed? A maximum of 10 residents in a group home or retirement home, a bed and breakfast, a detached dwelling, a group home, a home-based business, home-based daycare, a park, a retirement home converted, a secondary dwelling unit, and urban agriculture. So from your point of view, I think that the key thing here is this guy here. So what I'm saying to you, Michele, is it's unlikely that you would get a triplex approved for a V1 zone. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Because a V1 zone, there are different village zones where, it's like an R2 zone, an R1 is typically a single family house, excuse me. R2 might allow some duplexes, R3 and R4 might be small apartment buildings.
Okay.
So what you can't do is you can't just say, hey, this would be great to put a triplex on this site, and then you go to the city and they say, well, wait a second, check your zoning, it's V1, baby.
Okay.
Right? Okay, so you have to know this stuff. So when I looked at that this morning, what I thought was the highest and best use for this, let me ask you, Matt, I might have missed something that you were saying a moment ago. On your property in Navan, this guy, is there a basement apartment here?
There is, yeah.
So
So
you've
there's
got
a three bedroom in the basement and 2 on top.
So are they rented separately?
Yes.
Excellent. What do you get for the upstairs unit?
1374, and downstairs is 12 and change.
So I think, Michele, that's a pretty good income.
Oh, I'm not saying it's not a good income. I was just, after listening to you, I was thinking, hey, this is a nice little chunk of land. Maybe we could do something, but Matt also had an idea not a tiny home, but a coach house or something like that. And I don't know if you can see where it's hidden now, but behind the big tree and where that car's parked, like it's adjacent to, anyways, there's a garage, well, a shed. What would you call it, Woody? Like a big sheddy garage. I don't know. It's it needs to be taken
It's hidden
down
by that tree.
Yeah, it does need to be taken down. We're thinking that through. So that was
Where's the garage, Michele?
It's actually right beside. So if you're looking at the house,
It's kind of here, I think.
Yeah, that's where it would be. Yeah.
How big is the garage, Matt?
We measured it. I think it's 26 long by 13 wide.
So
there's no utility in it. There's no hydro.
Yeah.
It's
so that, what was your idea for it, Matt?
Well, so the idea was spawned from the tiny homes or the coach house or a micro suite. Thinking of it, if we just looked at the property, right? How else could we animate said property? And coach house was one of those things, right? So I don't know what the art of the possible would look like, but just based on the size of the entire lot, I'm thinking we could probably do a few things with that. And one of them might be to light up a micro.
I really like this idea. So let me show you. And you may have seen it already. Yeah. Do you remember this this example? This is a property that my wife and I own in Belleville, Ontario.
I do recall that. Yeah.
Michele, do you remember seeing it?
I don't remember. And was it part of your course?
You know what? I do so much coaching and teaching. I don't remember what I did yet.
Okay. Well, if Matt's not, okay, we're on the same page. Yeah.
All right. So this, I'll just show you what it is. And I think, Matt, you're on the right track. So this is 140 William Street in Belleville. And this is the property that we own. So you can sort of see there's a detached garage here.
Yeah.
So this is a 5-bedroom house in front. And this is a side view. So this is a 5-bedroom house here. And then sort of there's another house in a back-to-back condition here. So there's a 2-bedroom house here and a 5-bedroom house here. And there's this detached garage here. And then this is the picture. So here's the Firestone original. So what I did was I sketched this out, and I said to my architect, a young guy who lives in Renfrew by the name of Dustin Poole, I said, Dustin, what we're going to do is we're going to take that existing garage and we're going to renovate it. We're going to, and this is my drawing, not his. I mean, he's a professional architect, architectural technologist, but this is me. So I said, we're going to have a bedroom here, the great room here, and we're going to add another room here. So a little 2-bedroom coach house. And then this is the plan that Dustin came up with. All right. So Michele, I'll take you through it. So so this is the main entry here. This is the great room. It's got a kitchen here, living and dining room here. And then over here on the right-hand side is a bedroom with its own bathroom and its own walk-in closet. And then this is the addition that we're going to put on. Now, the one thing I want to say to you, Matt, is that I'll just go back a few slides, is we just applied for a building permit for this, like literally, it's either went in yesterday, it's going in today, all right? But what we are calling it, Matt, is we're calling it a renovation. but there won't be a single stick. I mean, we might leave one sticking up 2x4. Because if we knock this down, if we say we're knocking it down and building a new place, we're never going to get the building permit issued. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So it's a renovation because this thing is right on the property line and we would never be able to relocate it here. So it's a renovation. But what we're going to do, literally, we're going to take the brick off because the brick is garbage. We're going to jack this thing up. We're going to pour a new slab. Then we're going to put it back down, and then we're going to replace every single thing. All right. So it's a renovation. And I suspect that on this garage of yours, you would say to the city, we're going to renovate that and we're going to create a little coach house. Okay. But it's a renovation. Getting a renovation permit is a hell of a lot easier than getting something new.
Okay, so Bruce, I 100% hear where you're going with this, and I just, in the spirit of being completely transparent, there's nothing in that garage that we would be. It's literally it's on an angle now. It's like one of those old abandoned barns that you see that like there's 20 years of tenant storage still in it.
I understand that. You're still going to tell the city it's a renovation.
Yeah. All right, perfect.
And this garage had a fire in it. There's nothing in this thing that we're going to reuse, nothing. But it's still a renovation.
We also don't have a floor. It's a dirt floor.
Yeah. No, well, this has a floor, but the slab is garbage. So we're going to literally jack it up, put the slab in, pour the slab in, put it back down, and then take it apart and build it. So it's a renovation. It's much easier to get a building permit for a renovation. You're just going to have to trust me on this.
Okay. No, we trust you. Just trying to get clarity on and make sure that you understand what we're doing.
Listen, later on this year when we finish, you're welcome to come down and see it. But let me just walk Michele through what it will look like. So let's go back to this diagram. So look at this, Michele. So this is the additional. The addition that we're putting on, okay? So this is the original footprint, if you can see my cursor moving around, the additional footprint of the garage. And because we're right on the property line, we offset this, but we offset it for two reasons. One, because we wanted to back off the property line so we didn't make our neighbor at the back mad at us. And two, it allows, because you see how this thing sticks out, it allows this micro suite here to have its own ingress and egress to the outside. So this is now a 2-bedroom coach house in the backyard of 140 William Street. And let me tell you what happens next. So what it means is we could rent out a 2-bedroom house on a long-term rental basis if we wanted to, or we could rent out a 1-bedroom place here. And we could have a separate rental here because this is a standalone studio apartment. It's about 250 square feet. It's got its own little wet bar here. It's got its own bathroom here, bedroom, closet area. It's got some kind of work area somewhere here. I don't remember where, but we'll make sure it does. But you see this connecting door here? If we rent it out as 2 separate units, it'll have 2 connecting doors like in a hotel where they can be locked on both sides or they can be open on both sides. But here's the cool thing, Michele, for us. The demand for Airbnb in Belleville, because it's right next to Prince Edward County, which is wine country in Ontario, is off the charts. For this 2-bedroom on Airbnb, believe it or not, we can get $300 a night.
Yeah.
Or we could put this on Airbnb as a micro suite. We get about $115, and we could put this on Airbnb and we get $200 a night. So we have all kinds. Do you see how the functional program could change over time?
Yeah.
And it's all because we have a connecting door and its own ingress and egress. So if I was going to do something with your property in Navan, when I was looking at it this morning, what I was thinking makes sense to me is a couple of things. One would be to leave this house as it is and just collect your rent and be happy with it, and then turn that garage into a coach house very similar to this. So I'm going to send you my design for 140 William, and if you like it, I'll introduce you to young Dustin Poole, and he could help you with this if you want.
Okay.
So I'm going to send that to you now. But this is, you know, and people don't recognize and realize how much demand there is for rental housing in places like Navan.
Yeah, well, I mean, we rented that out right away and they haven't left. They're quite happy, just living out in the country. Close to everything. What is it, Woody?
Yeah, we were talking about taglines, Bruce. It was close to everything, away from it all.
Oh, well, that's beautiful. That's good. I like it. Keep that one.
You're like 3 minutes down the street from downtown Orleans, but you're in the country. We have a fire pit. There's a permit for it. People like to do their gardening. Like, it's kind of a rural zen almost.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So I want you to look seriously at the design that I sent you, because the amount of money that you can make from that coach house, whether it's 1 2-bedroom place that you're renting out, or 1 bedroom that you're renting long-term in the studio, whatever. There is another opportunity though with this that I should tell you about. With this particular design. I'll see if I can find it. Yeah, I have it here. Can you see on the screen, it should say Gigaplex here?
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever heard me talk about the Gigaplex idea.
Yeah.
And I called it Gigaplex because it's how to provide a free home. And it's all kinds of things. And also because of the gig economy, et cetera. So I wondered, did I ever play this for you, Matt?
I think I saw that in your Fix-It course.
I think you might have. But what I'm going to talk about, I'm just going to go back here. So this is a project, Michele, that one of my clients in White Rock, BC is doing. That's a suburb of Vancouver. Mm-hmm. And what I'm going to show you is how these lock-off suites can work in a very, very strange and really quite beautiful way. So this is a 2-bedroom apartment, and this is, you know, a 6-story building. And this is the corridor down here. And so you can see it's a 2-bedroom apartment. Here's bedroom 1, here's bedroom 2. You come in here, you've got a little work area here, bathroom there, kitchen there, entertainment area here, and there's the balcony. And here's you go through this door, here's your 2nd bedroom. But what's interesting about that is your 2nd bedroom is also a lock-off suite or a micro suite or studio apartment, because it has its own little micro kitchen here, it has its own bathroom, etc., and it has that same connecting door, but also has a door to the corridor. So let's say, Michele, you and Matt owned this building in White Rock. You could rent this apartment to me in White Rock. It's quite expensive. You'd rent me a 2-bedroom for $3,000 a month. But you say, Bruce, you have to rent out the micro suite, the lock-off suite. You can put it on Airbnb, you can take in an elder, you can do whatever you want with it, but you have to generate revenues here. So what is happening is that maybe I rented the whole thing from you for $3,000 a month, and I put this on Airbnb, which in White Rock, especially in wintertime, is very busy because they have better winters than we do. And maybe I get $150 a day, you know, for say 25 days. So maybe I'm making $3,000 or $4,000 a month for my lock-off suite, and I'm renting it for $3,000. So basically I can rent for free or close to it. But it gets even better than that. Your tenant has to pay you what's called a percentage rent. So you might take 30% of their rent. So instead of getting $3,000 a month, if I got $3,000 a month from this thing, you would get an extra $900. So you'd actually get money and you do no work. I don't know if you understand that. It's called the Gigaplex effect. And this is the very, very first one that we ever did. This is the first lady who ever did one of these. It's called augmented tenancies. And this is in Rockland. So there's a developer in Rockland that I coach, and he is building 6 gigaplexes as we speak. But this was the very, very first one. I'll play it for you. It's only 2 minutes.
At first, I was very hesitant because I wasn't sure if I could handle like what it entitled for me. But then getting to know a little bit more about it, I was kind of open to the idea, but still a little hesitant. Thank you, Alex, for explaining everything to me and making me more at ease with it. it's helped me immensely. It's helped with the rent. It's helped with the things around the house. They do help. It helps to being able to rely on someone who do have a good relationship with the people downstairs. They also have techs, so they take care of mine. So it's actually built a friendship, and it's turned out really great. Yes, actually, because well, it's actually really helping, like I said, that they're great tenants. But I think it would, because first of all, like I said, it lowers the rent. So for me, it's kind of just take to be living in this really great place, like, and it's big, so it's perfect for us. And it's actually pretty simple. So yeah, definitely, I would really good to stay a little longer. Hard to think of it like that because I've never even thought of having it like that. But since they refer me as the landlord, it's kind of like, ooh, okay. But yes, I do feel like this is a little bit more at my home, since I have a little bit more control of what goes on in here. And at first I thought it would be hard, but within a week we found him, and with my property manager and with you, Alex, it was nice to be able to count on someone to help me show the house and explain, like answer all the questions and whatnot. But no, it was actually pretty easy. I'm really thankful for that. Yeah, so I signed my lease in mid-March, and I had someone a week after. So I had someone before April 1st, which is whenever they came in. So it felt great. And even my first month rent, I didn't have to pay in full. So great. I definitely would recommend it to anybody who could do it.
It's pretty sweet, eh?
Mm-hmm.
So a question, go ahead, Michele.
You go ahead.
I guess the burning question that I have is the tenant would have a subtenant. Why would we, as a potential other alternative, why wouldn't we rent both of them out and keep 100% of both of those, as opposed to making our tenant sublet a unit to that other person? Could we not generate more revenue doing it the other way? Like, okay, well, this one's for rent, and this one's also for rent, and double? So yeah, 30%?
I definitely think that's a possibility. One of the ways that we're using it, though, is where people are banning Airbnb. So, for example, many cities now are effectively banning Airbnb. Ottawa has done that. I think you are aware of it. It's been appealed. Yep. They banned it. So if you wanted to, like, I have a little suite in my house here. If I wanted to put that on Airbnb, I could do that because I live here, right? But if I have a rental property and I want to put it on Airbnb, I cannot. However, if you have a tenant living here and he or she puts it on Airbnb with this augmented tenancy thing, and you get a percentage of that, that's legal.
Okay.
So I'm not saying that you should do it, Matt, but I don't know if you know Airbnb very well. I'm kind of an expert at it. And I can tell you, if my wife ran off with a younger man, I would take our Airbnb units off in about an hour. I mean, because it's a lot of work. And she doesn't mind doing it. She's a mother, she's a grandmother. We've got 5 kids and a bunch of grandchildren, and she views her guests as more of her kids or grandkids, which is fine. But for somebody like me, I like coaching, I like teaching, I like writing. Having somebody drunk on a Saturday night saying, "How do I get to Netflix?" is not exactly my cup of tea. So the thing about augmented tenancy for a property like this one that we're building in William Street is I could definitely rent this 2-bedroom to somebody and allow him or her to rent this micro suite, and I would make 30% or 50%, whatever it is, but I would do no work. Right? If somebody's can't figure out how to get on Netflix, they talk to their host, which is not me, right? So this appeals to me and to some of my clients, but not to everybody. If you're willing to do the work, you can make more money, but you're also going to do more work.
Yeah, I like the idea. I don't know how Airbnb Navan is, and I'm kind of in the same boat as Matt. Let's just put the coach house up, and that's what we're gonna deal with for now.
Exactly. But what I would put in your lease, Michele, because if you do this, if you renovate your decrepit garage and you create this with the micro suite here and a 1-bedroom here, so it is a 2-bedroom, and you rent it to somebody, say, hey, we got a 2-bedroom here, you should at least make your tenant aware of the fact that if he or she wanted to, they can put this on Airbnb if they wanted to, or they can sub-rent it to somebody else. Maybe they just need the 1-bedroom here, and they could rent this to a friend and get an extra $1,000 bucks. But if they do that, you put in your lease a percentage rent. Do you understand that?
Yeah, so if you said the big picture of this, you're renting it out is $3,000. And then of the $3,000, does that includes the little sites, the micro suite?
Correct.
So then they charge whatever, say they charge $100, just to make the math easy. That $100 goes towards their $3,000, but you get a percentage of the 100.
Exactly. And that's a negotiation. Some landlords say, I want 50%. Some landlords say, I want 30%. That's up to you. But even if you're renting a 2-bedroom to somebody, let's say a young couple with a kid, that's fine. You're paying whatever you're paying for that apartment. But if they ever decide to sublet the independent micro suite, you want 30% of those revenues. You put it right in your lease. Because if it's not in your lease, guess who gets to keep all the extra money?
Right.
Your tenant, not you. It's a commercial percentage rent is a commercial concept that I brought to the residential space, and it works really well. And most tenants like it. I did a deal like this on one of our properties. I have a handyman who rents a building very similar to this, and he has a pal of his renting this similar to this, a lock-off suite for $1,000 bucks. I get an extra $300 out of that.
With no work.
Well, I do nothing. And from his point of view, this is in Canada. He pays, I think, $2,000 a month for this thing in Canada, 2-bedroom, and he gets $1,000 for this thing. $300 comes to me. So now he's got his own 1-bedroom for $1,300 bucks, which he can afford. He makes about $65,000 or $70,000 a year, so he's in good shape. But I talked to him about it, and you're looking for a specific kind of tenant who has a little bit of an entrepreneurial skill set, if you know what I mean. Don't have to be flaming entrepreneurs like me, but they do have to have some understanding of it. There's lots of people who say, oh no, this is way too complicated for me. But I say, well, go rent somewhere else.
Yeah. So Bruce, just because this is all very new, and Woody, you might have the answer, but so a micro suite, not a micro suite, a coach house, like what are we looking at cost wise? It's just completely, I don't know if it's $100.
I tell you how much it costs. I'm gonna have to ask Matt to go over to your chair and pull you up off the floor. It's very expensive. New construction today is ridiculously costly. That coach house that I'm doing at 140 William is $234,000. I have a budget, and we're in for a building permit. Like I said, it's either going in today or tomorrow. Tomorrow's Friday, right? Yeah, today or tomorrow. And I've got I used to be able to build these things in 6 months, Michele. It's now taking me 9.
Okay, so
or 10 months. It'll take close to a year. I used to be able to do them, like I said, in 5 or 6 months. Not anymore. So you've got a budget between 8, 9, or 10 months. And I was building these things just 3 or 4 years ago for $125,000. It's pretty much doubled.
Okay.
But here's the good news. The good news is you don't have to buy another lot.
Yeah, no, for sure.
But if your builder tells you he can do it or she can do it for 150 grand, that by the time you hook it up to services, hook it up to your septic field, hook it up to the pipe water, make sure the electricity is there, pay all the fees and everything else, you won't be much under $235,000. You might do a little better than me, but probably not much.
So the 240 is all inclusive. It's electricity, water, your materials.
Utility hookup, fees, city fees, everything. It's $234,000. And I didn't tell the builder this, but I have another 15 grand in a contingency because undoubtedly there's going to be other issues. So I just want you to know that I used to say, Michele, the three quickest ways to get poor was, number one, get divorced. Number two, buy a horse ranch. Number three, buy an NHLT. Now, I've only done one of those three, but there's a fourth one I've added to the list recently, and that is become a developer.
Okay.
All right, because you know, people will tell. I mean, contractors and architects and engineers, they'll tell you, "Oh yeah, we can build that thing for 110, 120, no problem." But that's just not true in my experience.
So, Bruce, are we not in the development business with this particular model?
Absolutely, you are. That's why I said, you know, I wanted Michele, you know, to be sure that she didn't fall off her chair. It's $234,000 to build that thing. I mean it.
Yeah.
Let's figure out let's figure out what the cap rate is. Okay, Matt, get your calculator out.
Michele, you might want to have your calculator out too. Okay,
No,
I've got my.
Come on.
I'm not really, I can punch in the numbers.
All right, you punch in the numbers. So, Matt,
I'm not the math wizard of the family,
all right,
but I have a calculator.
Okay, I picked on the wrong person. So let's go back and look at this again. Okay, so Matt, if you built this, what would you get for a one bedroom in Navan?
A one bedroom?
Yeah.
Well, the
It's
three
a
is
brand new, beautiful one bedroom. What would you get?
At least $1,000.
Oh, it has to be more than that.
I think it's more than that as well. I mean, they're not really building a whole lot in Navan, but yeah.
Well, because we're underselling what we're doing right now. I mean, our tenants have been around for a while, so this day and age of one bedroom, pristine in Navan, where you're away from everything but close to it all. I don't know, like 1,500.
Yeah, okay, I'm going to accept that. So let's say $1,500, Michele, for the one bedroom and $1,100 for the micro suite. So you're going to get a total income from this property of $2,600. Got that, Michele?
Yeah.
Okay, now multiply that by 12.
Okay, 31,200.
All right, now go down another column. Your OPEX, operating expenses, will consume about 34% of that. So operating expenses has nothing to do with mortgage, okay? Operating expenses are insurance, vacancies, property management, repairs, maintenance, you know, all that stuff, insurance. Okay. So what is 34% of the 31 grand?
10,608.
Wait, I thought Michele was doing this.
He's right.
Okay.
I'm just trying to keep up.
All right, so the top line, the 31,000 was your gross operating income. The next line was OPEX, your operating expenses, and now deduct OPEX from your gross income to get your net operating income. What is your net operating income? I just got to take this. I'll be back in a second.
Okay.
Hey, Lucas.
I see 20.
Excellent.
592.
Yeah.
Okay, babe, since Bruce is gone, I'm just gonna run to the washroom, okay? But I have the same number as you, 2592. Okay, I'll be right back. Watch it.
Okay.
Great. operating expense always 34%, Woody?
That is the rule of thumb that Bruce has. Like, so that's kind of
Okay.
like the standard metric for calculating operating
I wanted
expenses.
to apologize to you guys about I almost never do that, Matt and Michelle, take a call. But this is a group that is buying a massive property for many millions of dollars, and it's kind of hanging balance right now. And so I apologize for taking that call. I should have mentioned that I was expecting that call. And I just, you know, I'm not a firefighter or paramedic, but there are times when it feels like I am.
No worry, it gave me a chance to have a little health break. Had to go get my water.
Even better. I'm so pleased that you weren't mad at me for that, because I almost never do that. So,
So-
okay, so the 34%, as Matt was saying, it's just a rule of thumb.
Okay.
Because this is a new building that you're building, it'll probably be quite a bit less than 34%. You know, your repairs and maintenance on a brand new building should hopefully be zero for 7 to 12 years, right? But
Okay.
but 34% is a safe number to assume you're, you know, and your vacancy rate is going to be minuscule and you know, but anyway, 34% is a good number. It's safe, it's conservative, and so now your net operating income, Michelle, is how much?
The 20,592.
Now divide that by $234,000. That'll give you your cap rate. So what is your
So what we paid for it, or what we might pay
cost
for
about
it.
$234,000 to do that? You might do it a little bit cheaper than me, but nevertheless, it'll be around that price.
Okay, I don't think that's right.
What'd you-
0.088.
I think that sounds right. It's about 9%.
Yeah, 8.8%.
Yeah, I think you're going to be around.
Oh, it's a percentage. Whoops, sorry. I thought we were under. Okay. Divided.
So on this building, you're going to be around 8.8% cap rate. So I want you to understand what a cap rate is. I know you know what it is, Matt, but Michelle, if you take your $234,000 and I'll just I'm just going to go back to something else. Give me 1 second here. I have here, yeah. So this is what you shared with me. This is, I think, your personal balance sheet. Woody has about $90,000 in tax-free savings account and RRSPs, and the rich lady has a lot more. So what kind of returns are you getting on your tax-free savings account, Michelle?
I don't do my taxes. I don't know. Matt does it.
What I mean, where is your money invested?
So we are in your traditional portfolio, Bruce, medium risk, mutual funds, that type of thing. And I do follow your school of thought. We're not getting nearly what we can and should be getting.
Let me just as an approximation on your tax-free savings account, what is your rate of return? Is it 2%? Is it 4%? Is it 1%?
I'd put it at 2.5.
All right, so let's just say 2.5%. Okay, we'll say, okay. So Michelle, here's the skill testing question for a serious numbers person like you. What is better, 8.8% on your money or 2.5% on your money?
Yeah, that one I got. I'll go with 8.8.
You know, if I could do the prices right, I would say congratulations, you know. So Michelle, for me, I've tried different things. You know, I tried hockey teams. I published a newspaper called Ottawa Business News, now Ottawa Business Journal. I mean, I've done a lot of different things.
Okay.
So you still there?
Yep.
Okay.
I think, can you hear me, Woody?
Yes.
I lost the connection. I can't see either of you.
Can you hear us?
Well, we can hear you.
I can hear you as well.
All right. So on your tax-free savings accounts, Michelle, you're getting around 2.5%. On, if you were to build this coach house, you would get about 8.8%, and that's quite a bit higher. I mean, you know, it doesn't sound like an amazing difference, but can you see me at all, Michelle?
Yeah, I can now.
Okay, so this pen here, the blue pen here, is kind of what 2.5% looks like projected out over time, and 8 or 9% is this. So over the next 20 years, the difference between these two curves will be humongous. So if I had a choice between, like I have, I think I have like $3,000 in RRSPs, even less than Woody, and I probably have, you know, maybe $100,000 in tax-free savings account. It's not even a tax-free, I think it's a locked-in retirement account. So I have very, very, very little of my money in that stuff because I have found, for at least for me, mutual funds, tax-free savings accounts, and for a lot of my clients in the States, same thing, their 401ks suck. The only thing that works for me is real estate. And the return on from your real estate, Michele, will be two things, right? It'll be, you know, that cash flow that we talked about, the 8.8%.
Yeah.
But it'll also be, you hope that your property values will appreciate, right? I mean, you bought this thing for, what did you pay for this thing when you bought it?
$247.
47.
What do you think it's worth today?
We guesstimate around 500,000, between 400,000 and 500,000.
Okay, let me show you why you're wrong. Okay, Matt, can you see my spreadsheet here?
Yes.
All right, so let's do this. Okay, give me the address again. It's
3827 Navan Road.
all right. And what is the rent upstairs?
1374.
Say it again, sorry.
1374.
Okay. And downstairs?
I think it's 1257.
That's right. And you put it up every year, right? When you're allowed to.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're gonna sum this up here in a second. So that's this is our gross operating income, right? And we're gonna multiply that by 12. That's your gross operating income per year, right? So this is per month. And this is per year. All right. And we're going to do, this is just approximate, right, Michele? It's not exactly 100%, but it'll give you an idea of what it's worth. Your OPEX is equal to, oops.
Yeah.
I hit something wrong.
10734.
It's equal to, oh, you're cheating. You're going too fast. There, shoot, yeah, there, times this, right? And so your net operating income is around this, right? And the fair market value cap rate, let's see, fair market value cap rate, we'll say it's 5.5%. I think it is right, which gives you a fair market value. That's wrong. Oh, come on. Equals this divided by that. Yeah, I don't like that. All right, so you were right. I think I unfairly criticized you. So it's probably worth about $450,000 to $500,000 now. Okay. And the reason I do that is if you're selling property, I don't want you guys to own property that has less than 6%. But if you're a really rich dude, let's say you were worth $100 million, you could buy property with a cap rate of 4.5%. And it still makes sense because it's still better than the 2.5% on your tax-free savings account. All right, so it's probably worth between $450,000 and $500,000. I think that's right. And now, just give me the net operating income again for the coach house. What was that?
20,592.
20,592. All right. So the total net operating income when you've done once you built the coach house is going to jump up quite a bit, right? It's going to double.
Yep.
All right. And now we're going to go fair market value cap rate. We're going to use the same cap rate. So this is why you want to do this. And so fair market value after coach house. I'll send you this too after we finish, all right?
Okay, thanks.
Come on, spell it right, Bruce. All right, that should be percent. So there you go. So after you've added your coach house, your property will be worth over $900,000. That is a serious yes. And your cost, remember your cost, how much did you buy it for again, Matt?
247. But Bruce, we did put we put $75,000 worth of renos into it.
That's
So
fine. I'm going to add that 75 grand. And then coach house, we think it's going to be around 234. So your total cost is, we'll sum that up again. It's that. So, you know, your gross profit is this guy minus this. So, you know, you'll have added about $364,000 to your personal balance sheet. And that's the kind of thing, Michele, that when you do it over and over and over again, within a very few years, instead, you know, I like this part of your balance sheet. You know, your government pension is worth over $2 million, which is great. But but the rest of your portfolio, for people who have the skills that you have and the education, is don't take us wrong. I don't mean it as a criticism. It's not overwhelmingly impressive.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Okay, that's not a criticism. It just is what it is. If you had $100 million, you probably wouldn't hire me as a coach anyway, right? Wouldn't need me. So that's kind of where you're going. This is the real deal. This is where you want to be in the green here, right? And that's where you're going.
So Bruce, will you send us Dustin Poole's coach house information? Like, are you like, do you recommend him, or do you think we can? Or
I love Dustin. He's an architectural technologist. He's done dozens of these designs for me and my clients. And he's a young guy. He's a single father with 3 kids. He's a good family man. Wife ran off. I don't know where she is. And I can't speak highly enough about him.
Okay.
I love the kid. I mean, he's in his 30s, but so he's not a kid. But I really mean it. I love the guy, and I highly recommend him. And he's very practical. And the only arguments I have, Michele, with Dustin is he doesn't charge me enough.
Okay.
I mean that. When he sends me a bill, I always, you know, add another $500. It's like a tip. You know, you go to a restaurant, you tip somebody. His bills are ridiculously low compared to an architect. He's much better in my experience than most architects. And he sends me a bill, I pay him, and I usually, and he says, well, you don't have to, but I do anyway. Okay.
Yeah.
Now there's one other thing that you could do with your property in Navan. And I think you know where I'm coming from. It's something like this now.
Yep.
So you know what that is, right, Michele?
That's one of those workshops.
That's a workshop. And the demand for a live-work condition is off the charts. So this is the backyard of one of my properties. And this particular property is, I have a triplex in front, and one of the units is rented to another single parent. She has 3 kids. Her name is Maya, yeah. And she runs a yoga studio in the backyard out of this workshop. It's very successful.
So what does it look like? Do you have pictures of the inside? So she lives in your triplex, and
Yeah.
then she just does her yoga studio here.
She was a yoga teacher. She's a young woman, beautiful young woman, in her 30s now. And she was making $37,000 a year and trying to bring along 3 kids on that. That's hard, eh? 3 little kids. And so she rented the apartment, and I had the workshop at the backyard. I like people, so I got to know her a little bit. And I said, so Maya, you work as a yoga teacher? Yeah. And she makes about $22 or $23, $24 an hour, something like that. And she was making $37,000 a year. I said, have you ever thought of running your own studio? She said, I thought of that, but I don't know if it'd be practical. So I showed her the workshop. It's almost 800 square feet. And I said, could you run it here? She said, sure. And I said, well, why don't you try? And so what I did was I rented her the workshop for very little money. I think I charged her like $400 a month for this thing, but I asked her for 15% of her revenues, right? I said, you know, you can pay me $1,200 or $1,500 a month for this thing. And I'll charge you 4% of your revenues, but I'll take the risk that you're successful. So in her first year, which would have been 2018, her total revenues from this or running her own studio was $130,000. And so I made $400 a month, which is about $5,000 a year, and 15% of 130,000. So I don't know what that was, another 18. So I made quite a bit of money. I made like over $2,000 a month, but it was a risk for me to take it as a percentage rent, right?
So Bruce, are we looking at this as an in addition to the coach house?
I would do that.
Okay.
And the reason I say that, Matt, is that the is that the demand for this live work condition. So if you built this coach house, right? Well, I don't know if I probably have some. I don't know if I have any of the perspectives on it. I'll have to find them for you if I can find them. Ah, shoot, I can't. Not in this slide deck. So anyway, so if you think about it this way, Matt, let's say you have this coach house and you have a workshop, and somebody who comes along, somebody in Navan is going to come along and want that workshop, maybe to run a woodworking shop, maybe to run a registered massage therapist. I have another lady who uses one. She's a hairstylist. She makes crazy amount of money. She uses, it's a smaller workshop, but she uses it for her hairstyling business. She's a sole practitioner. She makes $11,000 to $12,000 a month from that thing.
And would the person that operated the workshop have to be a tenant?
That is a really good question. The answer is yes and no.
Okay.
According to the city's bylaws, a home-based business is legal. So in Navan, you can have your coach house, and it could be the guy in the micro suite, or it could be the guy in the 1-bedroom, or it could be the guys in the 2-bedroom. But you know, so you will advertise on Kijiji or whatever. Look, if you're looking for a place to live and a place to work, let's say you're an HVAC technician, we're good. A plumber, an electrician, a surveyor, a hairstylist, a registered massage therapist, a physiotherapist, a yoga teacher. I mean, think about how many people have gigs today, Matt. Okay, so you actually advertise, you're looking for that person. We have a live work condition. And so hopefully that's the case. But I have another one. I think I booted it up when I was going through the endless. Yeah, I have another one I'll show you of what one of my clients did and how to get around this. So this is the yes and the no part. All right, here's the other part. All right, so this is in Greeley, okay? Can you see my screen okay?
Yes. Yep.
Michelle, you can see it okay?
Yep.
So these are a couple of young clients of mine. They bought this property in Greeley. And so it used to be a corner store like a long time ago. And they developed a 1-bedroom apartment here at Craig, a 4-bedroom apartment on the 2nd floor. And here behind these double windows here, there's like a co-working space. There's a huge 350 square foot space. So they actually have people who are in this building who have like a co-working space, okay? And then they have a detached garage, which you can see here, 2 double doors. If you can sort of see on the right-hand side, there is a person door here and another smaller overhead door. So I think the guys on the top floor here, the 4-bedroom apartment, they rent this, Matt, as a woodworking shop, all right? So they're living up here and they rented this detached garage for their workshop. But then these guys, so here you'll see here, this is where they are in Greeley.
Yeah.
So these are just old pictures of what this thing used to look like. So this was the building as it used to be. It used to be a corner store and had a gas station here too at one point.
Cool.
And then it evolved into what you see here, and then you can just sort of see it was a garage. It's really cool. This is what it looks like now. So there's a better picture. You can see the man door here. Yeah. And you can see the overhead door. So it's a really good workshop. And I'm just going to get out of this. I don't want to go through the whole thing because it'll take too long. But I want to show you what they built. You're going to freak. In the backyard, Matt, are you still there?
He just had to step away for 2 secs, Bruce, but I think he's on his phone listening.
Okay, not to worry. What they built in their backyard, Michele, was they really got into this workshop thing. They built this humongous workshop, 1,600 square feet.
Oh, wow.
It's
They've
huge.
got some land.
So here is the, you can see this is the slab that they poured. Here's the slab. Then here's the shell of the building. And this is, these are the clients. This is Alex and Stefan. This is one of the realtors I work with. His name's Simon. So it's a big site. It's over an acre, almost 1.6 acres. And then you can start to see now the workshop in the backyard is coming into shape. And you notice it has a man door and an overhead door on both sides. And the reason we did that is so that it could be, if they wanted to, it could be divided into two. It could be at least to 2 people.
Right, okay.
And then you can see it's nearing completion now. And then here's a picture inside. So this thing is humongous. And the reason I show you this one is to answer Matt's question. And that is, the city said, hold on, guys. Matt, did you see the picture that I just showed? Yeah. So this humongous workshop, 1,600 square feet, the city said you can only rent it to somebody living there. And they said, okay. So they have the apartment upstairs, then they have the 1-bedroom apartment, they have the co-working space, they have the original garage, detached garage, it's a workshop. Now they have this huge thing in the backyard. Then along came this group that wanted to rent it to test, it's a lab to test cannabis. So they test, they don't grow cannabis, they test it, for different things. I guess they're looking for cannabis that, regrows hair. I could use some of that. They're looking for cannabis that calms you down if you have panic attacks, so it's a lab. But they weren't tenants in the building now. You following me so far?
Yeah.
So what happened was we went to my real estate lawyer. I have a really good young real estate lawyer named Steve Shepard. I said, Steve, what can we do? These guys want to rent it. They're good guys. It's an interesting business, but they're not tenants. So what we did was there was a lady renting the 1-bedroom apartment at grade. So we did the augmented tenancy thing, Matt. We rented the backyard workshop to the lady, and then she rented it to sublet it to the lab, and she got $200 out of this is pretty expensive. This is like a $2,000 workshop, right? So out of the $2,000, she got 10%, and the boys got $1,800. So, and Steve wrote a legal opinion that this would be okay, because the person who's renting it, you can swear on a stack of Bibles, the person who's renting it is the lady who lives here. It's a home-based business. And then if she sublets it, that's up to her. So that's how we did it.
Nice. So Bruce, is it possible, just getting back to the coach house, changing our garage to a coach house, but would the coach house go on top of
No.
So we have and then another separate building on the property?
Absolutely. That's my opinion. It'll be much simpler construction. Trust me on that. Because when you mix a workshop with a residential use, you're going to get into very complicated fire separation.
Okay. So
Michele, think about this. Let's say it was a welding shop. How comfortable would you be sleeping on top of a welding shop? They burn down all the time.
No, that makes sense.
So I would definitely recommend 2 different buildings.
Yeah, but my concern is it's not like the property is massive. And one of the appeal to the property is it has this huge chunk of land, well, huge, it has this big chunk of land that our tenants now use as like garden, and they've got young kids and blah, blah. So I'm just thinking we start adding chunks and chunks, it takes away the Navan feel, the country living.
100%. I understand that. Listen, my job as a coach is to show you different models, but not to tell you what to do. You're the boss here, Michele.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just opening up windows, right? But one of the things that I do when I do my leases is I do not allow tenants to control the entire property, because it's 27,000 square feet. It's not a, a typical urban lot these days is 40 feet by 100, 4,000 square feet. It's like 6 or 7 times the size of a typical, residential urban lot. So anyway, so let's just fool around with one more thing and then we'll move on, because you've got a lot more in your agenda than we're going to get to. So let's say you built a warehouse. Okay, it wouldn't be the size of this. This thing is way too big. But let's say you build a smaller one. Let's say it was 400 square feet. So not 1,600 square feet. Just for somebody to run a woodworking shop. Okay, and let's say it cost you $150 all in per square foot, because workshops are a lot easier to build than than a coach house. A coach house has a kitchen, a bathroom, a shower, a washer, a dryer, etc. So this is going to cost you, something like that, 60 grand to build, and you're going to rent it. This is typical of what you'll get. I rent 200 square foot workshops. I've got a building full of little workshops. I rent a 200 square footer for $495, and a 400 square footer I get $695.
Okay.
Okay, and this is plus HST. All right, and I'll talk about that in a second. Oh shoot, doesn't like that. All right. So that works out to multiply that by 12. You've got that. That's your gross operating income. And your OPEX is going to be equal to, let's see if I can do it right this time, times that. So your net operating income, oops, shoot. That, and your cap rate will be so about the same as your other one. And that's about where I'm at with my cap rates on my workshops. So that's not bad. And 400 square feet is 20 feet by 20 feet. You could fit that on the property without interfering unduly with everything else. A 1,600 square footer is huge. I wouldn't do that, but that probably is worth doing.
So the 60,000, what do we have to supply in the warehouse? Just electricity?
So what I do is I hook up water.
Okay.
I provide electricity, and I provide a composting toilet. Do you know what composting toilets are?
I've seen
Yeah,
them.
I remember hearing about it on one of your seminars or previous trainings, Bruce.
Yeah. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, I've got it here. So these are the separate toilets that we use. They cost about $1,695. And you build a little room. It's not very expensive. They separate out liquids and solids, and you only have to change out the solids, once a month. And I've got a few tiny houses where I use these. They don't smell. They're really good. They're the best in the world as far as I can see. And this is how they work. So they're very, very, very simple. I'll send you that afterwards. But what I'm getting at, Michele, is this is what I would consider the highest and best use for your property. And there's one more element that I'll mention just so that you have a full picture, okay? And I'm going to go back to the boys, what they did with their property in Greeley. So they added this huge workshop, right, which is now rented to this cannabis lab. And these are just more pictures of it. But something else happened too. They have this beautiful little valley over here. Their property is pretty big. It's about 1.6 acres, so quite a bit bigger than yours. And I said to them, guys, why don't you add some urban glamping? They said, what's urban glamping? Because I have a client, Michele, in Portugal, in Porto, who's done that with her property in Porto, where you actually have glamping inside the city. You know what glamping is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I said, what if you added 2 or 3 of these glamping tents, you know, and, you know, so in addition to the co-working space and the 2 apartments and then the 2 workshops they've got now, what about some glamping? Because they've got the land for it. And they thought that was a really cool idea. But then what we decided to do instead was, this is a former student of mine. Her name is Eng-Sci. She's an architect. She builds these beautiful yurts in Pickering, Ontario. So they bought 3 of them, and they're good down to -40. You can do it. You can run it in the wintertime as well. And these are just fantastic things. And yeah, it's been a big success. People, you know, not everybody wants to stay in a hotel. In fact, I hate hotels. And so that's another thing you could add. And people don't understand, you know, you might say, oh, there's no demand for Airbnb or no demand for glamping in Navan, no demand for workshops. I think you'll find that there's demand for all of these things. So many people today are getting out of the city. Have you been to the Byward Market lately?
Not recently, no.
When was the last time you guys were there?
Last year.
Yeah, a year ago, July, I know for a fact.
And what was it like?
Well, granted, it was sort of like mid-COVID where they opened things up a little bit. So that was the outlier. But no, Bruce, I think what you're getting at, it was not the hustling and bustling, you know, thriving Byward Market that we grew up with by any stretch.
Yeah. And when I was there last time, unfortunately, I witnessed a young man being beaten quite badly by a couple of homeless people. And later that same day, the 2 men who were attacking this young fellow murdered somebody in the market. It was just senseless, stupid violence. The number of homeless people in the Byward Market is distressing. The garbage, the number of closures, the number of restaurants that are boarded up, it's really terrible. You know, Navan, I'm telling you, I'd rather live in Navan than on the Byward Market any day.
Yeah.
Anyway, those are some of the, I mean, I really wanted to at least try and get through as many of these possibilities for you on your Navan property as we could get to. And I know there were a number of other things on the agenda. I'm just going to check it here. I mean, that we've got through like not even a half of your agenda, but anyway, there you go.
No, you've done quite well. The only thing there are other things, but this gives us a lot to think about. I think the storage units might be something we could talk about next time. But Woody, did you want to bring up the BRS solution issue?
No,
not right now. I think that's something that we can figure out after. I think
I think that I highlighted that Matt on my. Are you saying that you weren't able to get access? Because there's a huge library of stuff there for you.
Yeah, so no, we're not able to get access to a lot of it. We can get access to some of the past newsletters, but there's some content, for example, everything you need to know about finance. We are not able to get access to some of that too, and that's one of the areas that, you know, financing is important in this line of business, and that's one of those areas. But that's more of a tech support issue that I think we can tackle when we're not using up everyone's time on that.
Would you do me a favor though, and just write me one more email and say, look, these are the things I need access to and I'm not getting it. And I'll send it to Steve Foster. He's my tech guru.
Yeah, we spoke to Steve during your absence.
Oh, okay. Well, I want to make sure you could get access, and I don't, you know, you've paid for it. And, you know, to me, that really means a lot. And I appreciate the fact that you need access. So let me know if I can help in any way.
Okay.
Other things, just, I'm going to send you some stuff to read. Michele, you asked as part of the agenda how to find properties. So I've got this little document which I'm going to send you, which is, you know, it's got, I don't know, 40
awesome
different points on how to find properties. But I just wanted to say, so I'll send that to you after we finish.
Okay, thank you.
But I just wanted to give you the bad news. In terms of finding great properties, the people who are going to find great properties are you two guys.
Yep.
And you know, I'm a realtor and I work with lots of realtors. I'm a coach. I work with lots of different people. But people often will say to me, Bruce, can you find me? And then they'll say, you know, find me a 100-unit apartment building that makes $100 per unit per month, $10,000 a month, you know, no problems, no, you know, after paying for everything, including the mortgage. Realtors.
Yeah, Bruce, you were abundantly upfront and transparent about that from day one. So we were under no illusions that we're going to win that lottery ticket.
Yeah, we're not going to go there. So what I want you to do is I want you to read how I find properties. And what I do is I don't actually find them, Michele. My wife does. She will spend, she's incredible. She will spend hour after hour after hour on Kijiji, on MLS, on realtor.ca, for the United States, on Zillow.com. She is, she's a, you know, she has a BSc and is a researcher, and she is amazing. And what happens is the more you drive around, the more you look at online listings, the more you stop and think about it, and the more business models that I expose you to, you will open your eyes and you will see opportunities where no one else will. So, you know, it's easy to, you know, if a triplex is for sale in Orleans and there's 32 offers on it, well, that doesn't take any skill to find that. I mean, you know, what takes skill is to find properties that everybody else has overlooked, but because you are now becoming experts in real estate business models, you go, oh my God, we could take that property in Navan, which we bought for just over 200 grand, and turned it into $1 million property. And it's not that hard, right? So you could find another property just like the one that we were looking at in Navan and say, hey, we could add the basement apartment for $75,000. We could add the coach house. We could add, you know, a workshop, or we could add yurts and whatever, you know, and we could make it $1 million property. You could do that over and over and over again, Michele.
I agree. So I know we're coming to the end of our session, but did you see our attachment for 5495 Boundary Road?
I did.
So that's kind of interest to us as well. But I mean, what do you, now that we have a bit more information, we could talk, but just off the top of your head, Bruce, like yay, nay, like what are you thinking?
Okay, so this is what I did. I mean, I told you I worked on your agenda. So
yeah.
So the first thing I did was, here, I went to Geo Ottawa. Here it is, okay?
Yeah. Okay.
This is the property here, all right? Yeah. And the zoning is RG2, okay?
Right, right.
Then I went to, is this RG2? No,
that's the V1.
Yeah, yeah. I had it, probably, no, I've screwed up. All right, RG, I looked at this and then I screwed it up. RG2 zoning. So I made Google do all the work. No. Oh,
yeah, that's R22.
Yeah, that works. Here we are. That's better. Oops, RG. So RG2, I looked at that. You are allowed a dwelling unit, but it's limited to a caretaker. So it means that, like a site super.
Okay.
You can have a body shop, a dealership, a dwelling unit. You are allowed a dwelling unit, a gas bar, heavy equipment, vehicles and sales, kennel, light industrial uses, parking lot, retail store, service shop, storage yard, automobile dealership, etc. Storage yard. So let me tell you what I thought when I looked at this one. So I don't have to tell you that, and I'm going to switch screens now. I don't have to tell you that when you buy something that was a former garage, you have to be very, very careful about you know, the environmental condition. But they do say in the listing that they have a phase 1 and a phase 2. Do you know, you guys know what a phase 1 and phase 2 is?
I gather there's some form of progressive assessments on environment. environment.
So it's an environmental assessment. A phase one is an environmental assessment where a responsible engineering company will go on site and look for obvious telltale signs of pollution. They'll look in the ditches, maybe there's oil running down the ditch, or they'll find spills on the property, or they'll find former oil tanks on the property, or whatever. They'll look through the land titles, the chain of ownership. If they find a dry cleaner back in the 70s, that's a red flag. They'll look at aerial photographs, which go back over 100 years to see if there was maybe an ammunition plant on the thing. So a phase one will tell you, look, it looks like this property is fine, there are no issues, or there might be some issues. So if they come back and say there might be some issues, they have to do a phase two. A phase two is they bring drilling rigs on site. So they do soil samples and water samples. Once they have analyzed the soil samples and the water samples, maybe there's no problem. They say, look, it was all false flag, everything's good. Or they can tell you what kind of pollution you have on the property, and then they can make a recommendation whether you should buy it and clean it up or walk away. So these are very, very important studies. A phase three is actual remediation. And I've done a number of phase threes where you buy a property, but you know that you've got a $500,000 problem and you have to clean it up, and it's going to cost you $500,000 bucks. So you know that, because there are environmental problems that you can't clean up no matter how much you try. It could be $10 million you could spend and you still couldn't fix it. Okay. Phase one is very important when you're buying land, especially land like this. And phase two is then necessary in many cases as well. So when I looked at this today, I quite liked it, Michele. As bad as it looks, I love properties that look like crap, because I can get them cheap and I can fix them up. So when I looked at this property, the obvious thing that came to my mind, and I thought I had it here, I didn't. Well, I'll go back to Geo. Yes. So to me, the obvious thing to do with this property is to create a storage yard. Clients of mine are creating. Matt, did I talk to you guys about long yards at one point?
You did, yeah. Yeah, and I've actually been seeing some social media about long yards as well, advertising their services.
So one of my clients is now doing kind of their own version of long yards, which is really good. I like it a lot. I love long yards too, but long yards is about small storage lots that are maybe 50 feet by 50 feet, so 2,500 square feet. This property here is about 3/4 of an acre, so bigger than your property in Navan. And what you would do, in my opinion, is it's about 3/4 of an acre, is you would create on this property, you probably would create 2 storage yards of about, what do you get? About 1/3 of an acre each. And, so you fence it, you gravel it, you clean it up. And on each one, each yard, you'll get about $3,000 a month. So what that means, Michele, is that if you have loaders, dozers, dumpers, all kinds of equipment, you can't keep that on your residential property. You can't park your 20-ton loader in your driveway. Your neighbors will complain, and the bylaw officers will come along and ask you to move it. So these storage yards are very important. Do you have any idea what the condition of these buildings are?
Not beyond what we saw on site and these pictures, that's it.
What did you see on site?
Well, behind that building, it's all garbage, and there's a bunch of crap thrown all over the place, and that's about the size of it. And there's a fence that divides it from another yard where there's same kind of garbage, an old chip truck and that kind of thing. But the state of the building looked fairly decrepit.
But as I said, I like it. So there's two. Is there 2 buildings here or just one?
Just one.
Let's go back down here. So, okay, so you've got, this is really interesting. So I think there are 2 entrances here, right? Yeah, there are.
On Boundary, I think you can access it from Boundary and whatever the corner street is from, or is it the Ultramars right there, Woody, something like that?
I think Bruce is, are you referring to entrances to the
So, yeah, to this road,
building?
this road here.
Building or to the,
I'll show you what I'm getting at. Just give
The
me,
property or the building?
just bear with me for a minute. So, let's go back. I'll stop sharing it. Let's go back over here, create another one of these Firestone originals. Oh, shoot, screwed up. I'm probably not at my best today, you guys.
Oh, it's
Because
super informative.
I just got the cold. And it's bug. Oh Christ, giving up. What's wrong with this? Let me try again. Just bear with me, okay, guys?
Yep.
There we go. All right, I'm gonna select this. All right, so you can sort of see, I think this is the property here, right?
Yep.
Sorry, it's so foggy, but it'll do for now.
Yep.
All right, so this is your property here. Or it would be, okay?
Mhm.
And because you have two entrances, I would be inclined to do something like this. You would end up with, I don't know, this might be very interesting. Just bear with me. You might end up, with a storage yard like this. I'll do a different color now. Storage yard. Oh, I'm getting tired, like this. So you've got one storage yard here and another storage yard here. You might end up with 3 different leases on this property and another one here. So what would be really interesting would be is if this storage yard, I'll go back to this color. We'll say we get $2K a month for this storage yard. And we get, say, $2K a month for this storage yard here. And then you have this building, and maybe this could be, I don't know if it could be, but it might be. Maybe this could be a chip stand. You know?
Yep.
Now you'd make real money if you did that. Do you understand what I'm getting at?
Mhm.
I'll just make that stand out a little bit more. So if you had a chip truck here, I mean, if you go back to the, you know, if you go back to this, and this is really interesting. If you go back to the map here. If you go back to the map, we go back here to this guy, Google Street View. Isn't Google fantastic?
Yep.
Can you imagine what this thing would be like? You'd have a you know, like a chip stand here, and you put your picnic benches underneath this. Do you understand what I'm coming from?
Yeah.
And so, and then in behind, you'd have 2 storage yards. And you'd make a ton of money doing this. So let's just do some numbers now. We'll go back to your spreadsheet here, okay? What's the address again on this property?
5495 Boundary Road.
And don't forget, how close are you to the Amazon?
It's
Yeah,
across
we're
the
very
street.
close. It's down the street, Bruce. That's one of the when we're thinking of the world's biggest, most prominent growing company at this point, Amazon, like there's a lot of
But can you
potential
imagine if you
traffic and
had a chip stand and a C-store right there? How many people would show up?
A chip stand and a what?
And a C-store,
convenience.
a store. You don't think?
I do.
All right, so what would you purchase this thing for?
It didn't, wasn't there a price reduction on that, Michelle?
Yeah, I'm trying to, well, it's listed right now at 649 on MLS.
Yeah.
But when we drove by it, there's a sign on it that says reduced price, but I don't know if,
So let's say you got it for $549. I'm just making up the numbers. You know, you have to pay land transfer tax, right?
Yep.
So there's a site where you can get your land transfer tax. You know how to do that?
No.
yeah, we can figure it out.
All right, so let's say you got it for $549. So your land transfer, I'll put this in the chat box again.
Okay, good, thanks.
So you can, because you got to figure this out, you know, you got to know how to do this stuff yourself. Where's my chat box? Here. So it's coming your way in a second. All right, so we know it's this amount. Go back to our spreadsheet. So there's your spreadsheet. Then you've got legals and title insurance, etc. You know, put in, this is just a number, placeholder. So there you go. All right, we'll sum that up. Okay, now you're going to do some fencing. You're going to do some security.
By security, do you mean a person or cameras?
Cameras. So yeah,
Okay,
your fencing is going to be 40 grand. I'm just making up numbers. Okay, these are just placeholder numbers. Your security cameras are going to be about 5 grand. Your gates are going to be about 20,000 bucks. They're not cheap. You know, you're going to have some lighting because that's very important. It'll be another $10,000. And then we have a cleanup, you know, which will be 15 grand. Spruce up, I'm talking about the building now. We'll put in 20 grand, make it nice. Okay, so our total cost for this damn thing is likely to be something like this. All right, about 668,000. All right, so yard one we said is 2,000, I think.
Yep.
Yard two.
I think you said 2,000 as well.
Yep. And so I just connect all these cells so they're easy to change there. And then you're going to have your C-store and chip truck, your C-store. That will be, I don't know, you'll probably get $1,500 a month for that thing. Your chip truck, you get 600 bucks. All right, so your total rent would be something like that. That's your gross operating income again. This times 12. And your OpEx. Here, your operating expenses are a little bit different. All right, because it's not a residential thing. It's a completely different kind of thing. Like your OpEx is probably much closer to 24%. That's at least my experience. So your net operating income is probably going to be around, it looks like around 50 or 60 grand. And your cap rate will be something like this. So it's coming in and around the same as the rest of the stuff that you were working on.
Wow.
About 8.3%. And there are things that you could do to really boost this up. For example, you would put in here a percentage rent. Typically you'd ask for a percentage of their sales, and that would be something like 4%. So let's say that they did a C-store, typically will do about $600,000 a year. The percentage rent would be, you understand a percentage rent,
Yep.
right? Matt?
Yep.
Would be about that.
Percentage of the revenue.
And that changes things tremendously, right? So if you add this, now you're at 11%. You see how important it is to understand how to do proper leasing?
Yeah,
And you'd also ask for a percentage rent for your chip truck, and that would be a little higher. I would ask for 6%. A good chip truck should do at least 150,000. So again, you add quite a bit of money for to your rent that way. So we'll add that to your gross operating income. Oops. So we add that. Now you're starting to really make money. So this has real potential, Michele. When I looked at it, I thought right away of bigger storage yards, which means you're appealing to companies that are in the $1 to $5 million sales range. So landscaping companies that have, they have big stuff that they need to store.
Mhm.
Now, the other possibility here would be if one of these yards, instead of renting it to somebody who's storing equipment, it could be used cars. You with me on that?
Yep.
You guys probably are aware that used cars are in tremendous demand today. All right.
Absolutely,
Prices have gone out of control. So what you would get from a used car dealer is you would get the $2,000. So it wouldn't be any different from what you were getting for storage. But guess what else you'd get? Come on,
Percentage rent.
Yeah, oh my God, he's way. Yep, 100%. You'd ask for 4%. And a typical car dealer like this, will sell 12 cars a month. The average will be about $6,500. Watch what this does to you. And that means you'd end up with, no, sorry, that's wrong. Not 65,000. So a typical used car these days is not as cheap as it used to be when I was a lot younger. So on a monthly basis, they could easily be selling that. So your percentage rent from that would be really significant. Wow, that would make a big difference. That would add another $37,000 a year. Do you understand?
yeah.
So I'm not going to put that in there. So this is, I haven't actually put it into your, but in your cap, you could drive the cap rate on this thing to 12% and maybe quite a bit higher. So this one I think has possibilities. Are you thinking of putting in an offer?
We wanted to talk to you about this first and foremost, Bruce, because there's as you know, a couple of moving parts. One of them is Navan. One of them is this or potentially other properties. But the first thing we wanted to know is just get a barometer as to whether or not this is something that even made sense. Looking at it right now, you know, we're in the teens almost at this point in time without even looking at the used car. It seems to make sense on paper. Environmental impact studies notwithstanding, I'm not sure what that entails, but that would be something that would be really interesting for us to look at. Absolutely would be my knee jerk.
This one I think you should look at because it's been days on market is quite a lot, right?
Yeah.
It's 114.
How many?
114 days.
Wow, that's really good. I like that. You see that you're talking, this is the kind of property I would buy.
So you think offering $100,000 less than what they're asking, they won't just like laugh in our face, or it doesn't matter?
Doesn't matter.
Well, I mean, I don't want people to laugh in your face, Michele, but you know, I bought a building in Belleville. I think I went through that with you guys, right?
Yeah.
And I offered them 200 and I don't know, 240,000. I'm expecting an appraised value sometime in June of about 6.1 million. I offered them 240,000. I think it was 240 or something like that. I bought it for $240,000, a downtown Belleville building.
Wow. Yeah, you
Uh,
put a lot of work in there though. So,
Oh, $3 million worth of work, but it's
Yeah.
going to be worth just over 6 million. So that's worth doing. But you know, that's my way of doing things. Like, it's not up to you to try and please everybody. I mean, you know, we all like to be liked, but you know, it's not always possible.
okay, so could we offer,
Do you have a realtor? Because if you don't, I'm going to put this offer in for you, because this is the kind of thing I would do myself.
we do have a realtor. I don't know. I guess Matt and I would have to talk about it. It's a friend. That's why.
Oh, no, you deal with your friend. That's fine with me.
Well,
Well, yeah, but we'll think about that, Bruce, because
you're feistier.
no, and this is part of the journey that we're on as well, right? So I'd like to, as much as possible, consolidate our learning with our coach. I think that there's a lot more compounded value in doing it that way, in my opinion. But I think there's room for conversation on this. We don't have to bring in a third party to ask questions. We should be asking you as we go through this. You're going to be making your commission off it as well. So I think that there's good partnership opportunities.
Well,
But here's the $1 million question that we have, Bruce. I know that we're almost out of time. Well, we're
We are.
past
We are.
overtime.
Yeah.
So we talk about in some of the learnings that you'd mentioned, and so when you reestablish your cap rate and you have it appraised and you've got your anchor pricing. So see, these are some of the concepts that you had mentioned earlier, which I recalled, because this is part of our oh yes. Right. So that's the one question that I have is, okay, so it becomes appraised, and let's just say there's $200,000 in tax-free money, right? That's what gets me. So Michele and I, in terms of the agenda, and we want to tell you about us, is that's something that's very interesting to us. So when we talk about the 1 year exit strategy, or as we like to call it, the ASAP exit strategy, whatever that might look like, how do we extract that money and then use that tax-free cash to get us the hell out of our jobs and rinse and repeat this stuff? That to me is the $1 million question, because I'll resign tomorrow morning and make this happen.
All right, so let's go back to the spreadsheet that we just did. Okay. So let's assume for the moment that you bought this property, you put in this amount of money, and you got a 12.1%. You know how to calculate the fair market value, right? Fair market value cap rate. We'll be a little bit more conservative this time because it's commercial. We'll say 5.5%. So it means the fair market value on this thing is simple. Oh God, this thing is pathetic.
You're actually typing it in right. I don't know why it changes it on you.
I don't know either. So it's the net operating income divided by the fair market value cap rate. Wait till I hit enter. That's how you do it, Matt. So let's say you bought this thing for $670,000, including the improvements, right? And let's say in a year or two, it was worth $1.4 million. Then you put a new mortgage in place of 65%, just as a number. So you get a mortgage of this times that. And the amount of money that you put in, your total cost, was this. So the tax-free cash that you take out in a year, maybe 18 months, is this. And you still, is equal to this minus this. So a year from now, you take out $285,000, or maybe 18 months from now. And guess what? You go in the next day and you say, I'm leaving. Because you can do one of these every year, or certainly as you get better at this stuff, and as I teach you more of this stuff, you can certainly do one of these a year, I think. So if you can live on $285,000 of tax-free cash a year, that's all you need.
Yeah, that's definitely of interest to us.
And don't forget, Matt, you still own 35% of that as equity, right? So you didn't just make $284,000. You also made 30. You also made,
and there's a net operating income of 80.
Yeah, exactly. So you still own, this amount, that's, oops, sorry, I'm getting tired. So you still have $500,000 of equity. So you're doing okay. Like you do one of these deals and then you quit.
Or we get inspired and keep going.
Oh, no.
Quit our jobs.
You quit your job.
Oh, quit a job. Okay, yeah.
No, I mean, listen, when I looked at your personal balance sheet, again, I'm not criticizing you, but for people who are as smart as you are and as talented as you are, that balance sheet should be better than it is, right? I mean, bigger. And there's no reason why it can't be a $10 million balance sheet. And it won't take you that long to get there, especially if you have a good coach. All right. So listen, guys, I got other things, and I'm not feeling 100% either. This cold has got a hold of me, and I got a bit of a fever too. But I'm really, really glad to be working with you guys. We're going to have a lot of fun. I'm going to put this recording on YouTube, unlisted. You guys will get the link in another day or so. And think about it. If you want to put in the offer through your friend, go ahead and do it. But the other thing that's possible, Michele, is I love working with other realtors. I could teach your realtor how to do this. So we could share it. We could share the commission. I don't care about that. Do you understand what I'm getting at?
Yeah, no, I'm just all about our friends, but I agree with Matt that we're in this process with you. I think that we should just bite the bullet if we can get it for 5.
I don't want to step on any friend.
No, for us, it makes sense to keep it connected at this juncture. And
you do what you think is right for you. I'm here as your coach, but for me, I like being a realtor too. I enjoy that, but it's entirely up to you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you a bunch more stuff to read and to do. I'm going to put this thing on YouTube. I'm expecting from you, Michele, a mid-month report. So you tell me what you're doing, what you're learning, what new questions are coming up. So 2 weeks from now, you're sending that to me. And then we're going to have another session like this with another agenda. You're going to have to update your agenda and send that to me. And as we go through this process of coaching, it tends to get better and better and better. It does, as we get to know each other and trust each other a little bit more. But if you want to put in an offer on this property, and we'll put in lots of conditions. Trust me on that. We'll put in lots of conditions, the zoning check conditions, the financing, all of that. And I'll work, if I'm working with you as a realtor, I'll walk through all of that with you, okay? The building inspection, the going through the phase 1 and phase 2, the financing, all of that stuff. We're going to have to work on that. All right.
Okay, perfect. And that's where the financing came in for the BRS solution earlier. So we'd like to know what options are.
I'll help you with all of those aspects if I put on my realtor hat. All right. I'll see. Or if you just want me as a coach, that's fine too. I got to go.
No. Well, yeah. Okay. All right, Bruce. Thanks.
So get back to
feel better.
If you're going to go get this, I'll help you with that if you want. If you're going to go get it with your friendly realtor, that's fine too. Just keep me in the loop. All right. See you guys.
Thanks.
All right. Take care. Feel better.
Oh,
Bye.
okay.
Bye.